Okay, so this is part 2 for chapter 6.
The prokaryotes are bacteria. Nearly all prokaryotic cells have a rigid cell wall made of lipids, carbohydrates other than cellulose, and protein. Just inside the cell wall of a prokaryote is a plasma membrane that encloses the cell. Prokaryotes usually have one chromosome made of a continuous circular molecule of double-stranded DNA, which is surrounded by cytoplasm. The chromosome is attached to the plasma membrane in an area of the cell known as the nuclear region, or nucleoid. In addition, bacteria usually contain one or more smaller circular DNA molecules called plasmids. These extrachromosomal elements contain a few genes that help bacteria survive under specific conditions. The part of the plasma membrane attached to the chromosome can contain enzymes that aid in making a copy of the chromosome before the cell reproduces by dividing in two. Some have flagella, singular flagellum, long whip-like extensions made of protein that rotate like propellers, enabling prokaryotic cells to swim through water or the body fluids of larger organisms.
So an interesting question might be to see if that flagella on bacteria is like the flagella on the mammal sperm. So that would be interesting also to research. So this table is a little more in depth than necessary. So I would highlight some things that you for sure have to remember, because you do not have to remember all of this. This is the main thing you need to know, that the eukaryotic cells have what? Organelles, and which includes the nucleus, right? And then no over here. You just saw that little animation that went over prokaryotic cells. I also want you guys to remember what it just went over too, that there's one circular chromosome in prokaryotes, whereas they're lines, they're linear. The DNA is in lines. They're often in pairs. I'm not going to worry about that so much right now. I'm not going to worry about the streaming stuff. We'll get to cell division later. I do want you to make sure that you understand that both of them have ribosomes. I don't care about the size. You guys should be highlighting this. There's a bunch of stuff on here that you do not need to be concerned about right now. Again, I'm not going to worry about anything more except for this cell wall stuff. You need to know that all prokaryotes have a cell wall. They're describing the types of cell wall here, but cell wall here, some. Add the word some, right? What type of eukaryotic organisms have cells, cell walls for their cells? What type of eukaryotic organisms have cell walls? Plants, okay? Fungus do also. Animals do not. Okay, here's another animation.
In eukaryotes, some ribosomes, small bodies composed of RNA and protein, which catalyze the synthesis of a cell's proteins, are attached to a system of membranes called the endoplasmic reticulum, or ER. Proteins that are synthesized at the ribosomes attached to the rough ER pass directly into the ER as they are formed. They are transported through the ER to their final destinations in the cell. Many substances that are exported from the cell pass through the ER to the Golgi apparatus. As material passes through these compartments, it is packaged in spherical, membrane-enclosed vesicles that appear to pinch off of the Golgi membranes. The vesicles can fuse with the plasma membrane, releasing their contents outside of the cell. Some vesicles deliver their contents to other organelles. Together, the ER, Golgi apparatus, and vesicles form a connected internal membrane system. Lysosomes are special vesicles in animal cells and some other eukaryotes that contain enzymes that help to break down the cell's old macromolecules for recycling. Lysosomes can also fuse with vesicles formed by endocytosis, aiding digestion of the food particles within. Some animal cells have lysosomes that fuse with the plasma membrane. Digestive enzymes are released outside the cell, where they help to break down bacteria and other foreign particles.
So this diagram did go more in depth than the other diagrams that you maybe started with when you were trying to do that labeling. Some of you might have found this, and this was also helpful. You could see the vesicles for endocytosis and exocytosis on this one. Again, not something I'm very concerned about, but for you guys that found it for the labeling, good work. Okay, so we're done with 6.4. That is the bulk of this chapter, 6.4. So when you guys are studying and reviewing, make sure you're hitting that one, giving that one more time and effort than the other ones. I'm hoping this one's a piece of cake. I'm hoping this one sounds extremely familiar to you. So really focus in here. So this is about the concept of single-celled stuff and then multicellular organisms. And there are some intermediates. So all prokaryotes are unicellular. That's something else you should remember. However, even these simple guys will colonize and work together. And you can see that the brighter cell right here, this guy, it's the same type of cell, it's the same organism. However, this bacteria has gotten highly specialized and is helping the other ones around it. I think this is an example of dealing with nitrification. Don't need to worry about that, but they're doing an important task. Also, you can see they're attached to each other. They're forming chains. Bacteria sometimes will chain up or cluster up, and that way they can be like a community. Now, we call these groups what? Good, colonies. And a lot of organisms do that. A lot of single-celled organisms form colonies to help each other. Now, even the Protista kingdom, which is supposed to be all unicellular organisms, they also form colonies. This is one of my favorite organisms. You guys will see this in spring. When we hit organisms, well, hopefully you will. I get live Protista in, and we look at it under the microscope, and the picture doesn't do it justice. Spiral's not the right word. They're going around. What do you call that? Rotating, I guess. And they have, here's a single cell. They have flagella on the outside, and the way they colonize, the way they stick together, this is on the outside, and then like a big ship with oars, right? Maybe a Viking ship. They all work together, and they spin in the direction they want, and they go in the direction they want, typically probably to find light, because they are photoautotrophs. So pretty awesome. Then what happens is, some will start dividing and making a new cell, and they'll start their own little colony of sphere inside the sphere where it's being protected until it grows of a certain size. And they're getting old too, the older ones. So when they die and break down, the little spheres, the next generation is free to go on and be a big Volvox. So again, there's cell specialization and working together here, even though they're unicellular. And then that leads us to multicellular organisms. So multicellular organisms go way beyond that, where the cells have become so specialized that they can no longer live without being part of the whole being, the whole organism. And so the reason being here is that these organisms are larger, or they at least have internal structures. And for single-celled organisms, or just like two-cell thickness organisms, they can be in contact with the environment. So they can absorb what they need and excrete what they need. But not for multicellular that are thick and large. They need specialized cells to do what needs to happen. So even what's going on here is like we have gland cells, like communication hormones. We have nerve cells for reacting to things, muscle cells for movement, skin cells for protection, epidermis. So highly specialized. It's a division of labor. If you think about even this school, you guys know there are different jobs within this school, and we all work together to accomplish our overall task. So here's an example of a very simple animal. It's called a hydra. You guys could see this if it was large enough. It was like if it was an adult. If you knew what you were looking for, your eye could barely pick up a little teeny hydra. Otherwise, they're better under the microscope like this. But here's a blow-up, or an illustration too. And you could see it's only about 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5 layers thick for inside it, but it has its very simple digestive cavity there. And then we need specialization. This thing can sting things on its tentacles. So every cell's doing its own particular job for the whole organism. There is a lot of variation between the cells. For example, B here is your blood cells. You guys should be familiar with that. A, these are little teeny muscle cells. And it's even hard to determine on this picture where cell starts and stops. It's hard to see the cell membrane in there, just because they're so specialized. I do know these are nuclei, but they have this striated effect, these types of muscles. But anyway, the point is there's a lot of different types of cells. And again, now you've got to memorize this. I think you know it. It's the hierarchy here. So cells make what? Cells build what? Read. Tissues. So you've got like your eye, the cells that make up your eye, and then there's different tissues in your eye, and then there's different types of tissues that are making up your whole eye. So different tissues that are all coming together make what? Organs. Do you guys remember this?
I'm going to show you an organ right now.
Get out of here, Mr. Vickery. Okay, organs, then the same types of organs, all working to take care of a particular task, make up what? Organ systems. So are you guys going to be able to find that? If I say go from simple to complex or complex to most simple, can we do this? Cells to what? Everybody. Tissues to organ systems, and then what? The whole body or the whole organism. Good. So right here we have an example. A human organism, what's the system inside? The whole system. What is it? The whole thing for this example, that's the circulatory system or the cardiovascular system. And then if we pull one organ out, we have the heart. See all the different tissues that make up the heart? Here's a blow-up of part of the muscle tissues of the heart. And then there would be an individual muscle cell. Okay? So again, I've kind of went over this stuff in my discussion here. So again, we've got to get the things in and out of the body so the different cells take care of those tasks. If you think about it, the capillaries, right? Remember when we talked about that the capillaries went and got oxygen and carbon dioxide from every single cell? Do you guys remember that capillaries? Hold on.
Yes, sir.
Just go to the side and I'll fix it. Okay, so maybe it's going to work, darn it. We're being recorded.
Matter in the biosphere is characterized by increasing levels of organization and complexity. Each higher level of order requires a greater input of free energy for its maintenance than the level below it. Starting at the top organizational level, the biosphere is the part of Earth that contains life. An ecosystem is a region within the biosphere, such as the Chesapeake Bay. A community would include all organisms in the Chesapeake Bay ecosystem. A population would include all organisms of one species, such as striped bass within the community. Using the striped bass as an example, each organism is made up of organ systems, such as the circulatory system. These systems are composed of organs, such as the heart. Organs are composed of tissue, such as muscle. Cells, such as blood cells, are composed of organelles, including mitochondria, which are built with macromolecules like hemoglobin. Macromolecules are built from molecules, which are combinations of atoms. Atoms contain subatomic particles, including protons, which in turn are formed from elementary particles, such as quarks. Where would you draw a line to distinguish between life and non-life?
So this is a huge hierarchy. This is a nesting analogy, right? Atoms make up molecules. Molecules make up larger molecules. Then all those molecules together make up organelles and so forth. So where does the life start? Is this mitochondria? Is it considered life by itself? No. So where does life start on this hierarchy? Where? Cells, you guys. Okay, and then it goes all the way up to the biggest level, which is the biosphere. Okay, so the last thing I want you to do is look at this vocab. Practice little quiz on some of it. Write the answers down quickly.